The massive ship floated in the darkness between stars, its hull stretching for miles in every direction. Inside the great command chamber, 12 different alien species had gathered for the first time in over 1,000 years. The air buzzed with a nervous energy as creatures of all shapes and sizes filled the circular room. Admiral Kexathera stood at the center of the gathering. She was tall and thin, with 4 arms and wings that looked like they were made of crystal. Her large black eyes scanned the room as she prepared to speak. Behind her, a huge screen showed images of a small blue planet spinning slowly in space. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice carrying through special devices that changed her words into languages the others could understand. "We have a problem." The room grew quiet. Some aliens leaned forward in their seats, while others made soft clicking sounds with their mouths. The Saruk delegation, with their green scaly skin and long tails, sat perfectly still. The Valens, who looked like floating clouds of gas, drifted closer to hear better. Even the constructors, who were more machine than living creature, turned, their metal heads toward the speaker. "For 3,000 years our galaxy has known peace," Kexathera continued. "No wars, no fighting. No species has tried to take what belongs to another. We have lived in harmony, each keeping to our own worlds and following the laws we all agreed upon." Many in the room nodded their heads or made sounds of agreement. It was true. The Great Peace had lasted longer than most of their recorded histories. Wars were something their ancestors had fought, not something they had ever seen. "But now," the Admiral said, her voice growing harder, "there is a species that does not follow our laws. They ignore our warnings. They take what they want and go where they please." The screen behind her changed to show different images. Ships that looked rough and simple compared to the smooth, perfect vessels the council members were used to. Colonies built on worlds that had been marked as forbidden zones. Humans working and living in places they had been told to stay away from. "The humans," Kexathera said the word like it tasted bad. "They have built colonies in 17 different systems that we marked as off-limits. They have been warned 50 times to leave these areas. Each time they send back messages that make no sense. They use words like sorry and oops, but they never actually leave." A Saruk council member raised one clawed hand. "What exactly do these humans say when we warn them?" Kexathera touched a control on her arm, and a recording began to play. A human voice, speaking in a relaxed, friendly tone, filled the chamber. "Hey there, galactic friends. Thanks for the message. We got your note about the no-go zones, and we totally understand your concern. The thing is, we're already here and we've got kids in school and everything. Moving is such a pain, you know. But hey, if it's really important to you, we can talk about it. Maybe we can work something out. How about lunch?" The recording ended, and the chamber fell silent. Several aliens looked confused. The Valens swirled in patterns that showed they were thinking hard. One of the constructors made a sound like a computer trying to process bad data. "What does lunch mean in this context?" asked a Saruk. "We believe it is a social gathering where they consume food," answered Kexathera. "They seem to think all problems can be solved by eating together." "How strange," whispered a Valan. "Do they not understand the seriousness of breaking galactic law?" Kexathera's wings fluttered in annoyance. "We have studied their communications for many cycles. They appear to find everything amusing. When we sent them our most serious warning, written in the formal language of law, they responded with something they call a meme. It showed a small earth creature making a face with words that said, 'Sir, this is a Wendy's.'" "What is a Wendy's?" asked a constructor. "We do not know," Kexathera admitted. "But our language experts believe it was some form of insult." The room erupted in surprised sounds. Insulting the Galactic Council was something that simply did not happen. In 3,000 years, no species had ever been so disrespectful. "Perhaps they do not understand our power," suggested another Saruk. "They are a young species. They may not know what we are capable of." "That is possible," agreed Kexathera. "They have only been in space for a few hundred of their years. They may think we are weak because we have not fought wars in so long." She touched another control, and the screen showed more images of human activities. factories on asteroid mining operations in forbidden zones, research stations built on planets that were supposed to be left alone. Even more shocking, they had built what looked like vacation resorts on worlds that were marked as dangerous. They have ignored 17 separate warnings, Kexathera said. They have broken 43 different galactic laws. They have even built a casino on a planet we marked as a holy site. The gasps and shocked sounds from the council members were immediate. Building on holy sites was one of the most serious crimes in galactic law. What did they say when you told them it was a holy site? Asked Avalon. Kexthera's expression grew even more annoyed. They said, and I quote, "Cool story, bro. The slots are really loose here if you want to try your luck." Slots? Asked a constructor. Gambling devices, explained Kexthera. They turn our most sacred places into entertainment. The room buzzed with angry voices. Some aliens stood up from their seats. Others made threatening gestures with their arms or tentacles or whatever they had for limbs. "This cannot be allowed to continue," declared the lead Sauroch. "We must act." "I
agree," said Avalon. "They must be stopped." "But how?" asked a constructor. "We have not fought a war in 3,000 years. Our weapons are old. Our soldiers are trained for peacekeeping, not battle." Kexthera smiled, showing sharp teeth.
"Our weapons may be old, but they are still far more advanced than anything these humans have. Their ships are crude. Their weapons are simple. They have no idea what real galactic technology can do." She gestured to the screen, which now showed images of human military ships. They looked rough and ugly compared to the sleek, beautiful vessels the council members were used to. "Look at their so-called warships," she said. "They are held together with metal bolts and cables. They burn chemical fuel like primitives. They have no energy shields, no quantum weapons, no dimensional drives. They are like children playing with toys." "Then we can defeat them easily," said a Sauroch. "Of course we can," agreed Kexthera. "One show of force, and they will surrender immediately. They will beg for mercy and promise to follow our laws. This will be over quickly." She stood straighter and spread her crystal wings wide. "I propose that we end our 3,000 years of peace to teach these humans their place. A small military action, nothing too serious, just enough to show them that we are not to be ignored." "How small?" asked a constructor. 300 ships, Kexathera said. "Our most advanced vessels. We will arrive at their home system, make our demands, and give them one chance to surrender. When they see our power, they will have no choice but to obey." The council members looked at each other. 300 ships was a massive force. In the old days, before the Great Peace, that would have been enough to conquer entire star systems. "Are you certain this is necessary?" asked Avalon. "Perhaps we could try negotiating again." "We have tried negotiating," Kexthera replied. "They respond with jokes and strange pictures. They do not understand diplomacy. They only understand force." "Then we vote," said the lead Sauroch. "All in favor of military action against the humans?" One by one, the council members raised their hands, tentacles, or whatever they used to show agreement. The vote was unanimous. "It is decided," announced Kexthera. "We will gather our fleets and travel to the human home system. They will learn to respect galactic law, or they will face the consequences." As the council members filed out of the chamber, talking excitedly about the first military action in 3 millennia, none of them noticed the small device attached to the underside of one of their seats. It had been recording everything. Far away on a space station orbiting Earth's moon, Captain Jake Morrison received a message that made him laugh so hard he nearly choked on his coffee. 3 weeks later, space around Earth suddenly filled with alien ships. They appeared out of nowhere, their hulls shining with strange lights and energy fields. 300 vessels of different shapes and sizes floated in formation, creating a wall of metal and power that blocked out the stars. On the largest ship, Admiral Kexathera stood on her command bridge, looking down at the small blue planet below. Her 4 arms worked at different control panels, while her crystal wings caught the light from the ship's displays. Around her, crew members from a dozen different species hurried back and forth, preparing for what they thought would be a quick and easy victory. "All ships report ready," announced her communications officer, a Sauroch with bright green scales. Weapons are charged. Shields are at full power. The humans cannot escape. Kexathera nodded, feeling satisfied. The human home system looked so peaceful and quiet. A few small space stations orbited the planet. Some mining ships moved slowly, between the rocky worlds closer to the sun. Everything looked exactly as primitive and helpless as their intelligence reports had suggested. "Open communications to the human world," she ordered. "All frequencies. I want every human to hear this message." The communications officer worked at his panel for a moment, then looked up. "All human communication channels are now receiving our signal, Admiral." Kexathera straightened her tall frame and began to speak in her most official voice. "Primitive humans of the planet Earth. I am Admiral Kexathera of the Galactic Council. You have violated the laws of civilized space for the last time. You have built colonies where you were forbidden to go. You have ignored our warnings and insulted our authority." She paused, letting her words sink in. Behind her, the bridge crew watched their screens, waiting to see panic and fear from the humans below. "You have 30 of your time units to completely abandon all colonies in forbidden sectors," Kexathera continued. "You will also remove all military forces from space and surrender your weapons to our inspection teams. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities and take your world by force. This is your only warning." The communication ended and the bridge fell silent. Everyone waited for the human response. According to their battle plans, the humans should be sending messages of surrender within minutes. Their leaders would be begging for mercy, promising to follow galactic law. Instead, they heard nothing for almost an hour. Finally, a human voice came through their speakers. It sounded relaxed and friendly, nothing like the terrified pleading they had expected. Hello there, space friends. This is President Helen Carter of Earth. We got your message, and we appreciate you taking the time to visit our little corner of the galaxy. That's very thoughtful of you." Kexathera's eyes narrowed. This was not the response she had planned for. "We've been talking about your request," the human leader continued, "and we have a few questions. First, when you say 30 time units, do you mean 30 hours? Because that's not very much time to pack up entire colonies. Some of our people have been living on those worlds for decades. They have jobs and schools and pets and everything." The Admiral's crystal wings began to flutter with annoyance. "They are asking about pets," she whispered to her crew. "We threaten to destroy their civilization, and they worry about pets." "Also," President Carter went on, "we're a bit confused about the forbidden sectors thing. See, we've been exploring space for a while now, and we never got any official paperwork about where we can and can't go. Did you maybe forget to file the right forms with our government? Because we're pretty big on paperwork here on Earth." Several alien crew members looked at each other in confusion. Paperwork? Forms? What were these humans talking about? "And one more thing," the president said, her voice taking on a tone that the aliens' computers labeled as amusement. "We noticed you've got quite a few ships up there. That's a pretty big fleet for what you called a small military action. Are you sure you didn't overpack for this trip?" Kexathera's face turned a deeper shade of whatever color she normally was. "How do they know about our internal planning?" she demanded. "That meeting was completely secure." Her intelligence officer, a floating Velan, drifted closer to her station. "Admiral, we are detecting unusual energy readings from the human space stations. They appear to be scanning our ships." "Impossible," Kexathera snapped. "Their technology is too primitive to penetrate our shields." "Nevertheless," the Velan continued, "they seem to know our ship numbers, our weapon configurations, and even our crew sizes. They are broadcasting this information on their entertainment networks." "Entertainment networks?" Kexathera asked. Another crew member activated a screen that showed human television broadcasts. The aliens watched in shock as human news anchors discussed the invasion fleet like it was a sporting event. "Good evening, and welcome to Invasion Watch," said a human woman with perfectly styled hair. "I'm Linda Johnson, and we're here with our military expert, General Pete Sullivan, to discuss today's exciting developments in Earth orbit." The screen split to show a human male in military uniform, sitting in what looked like a comfortable chair. He was smiling, and looked completely relaxed. "Thanks, Linda," General Sullivan said. "Well, it's certainly been an interesting day. We've got approximately 300 alien vessels in orbit, representing at least 12 different species. I have to say their formation flying is quite impressive. Very orderly." "Now, General," Linda asked, "should our viewers be concerned about this invasion fleet?" "Oh, I wouldn't call it an invasion fleet," the general replied with a chuckle. "More like tourists who forgot to call ahead. They've got some nice ships, but they're using technology that's, well, let's just say it's very traditional." Back on the alien command ship, Kexathera watched this broadcast with growing anger and confusion. "They are making jokes about us," she said. "They are treating this like entertainment." "Admiral," her communications officer interrupted, "we are receiving another message from the human government." "Put it through," Kexathera ordered. "President." Carter's voice filled the bridge again. "Hi again, Admiral Kexathera. We've been thinking about your offer and we'd like to make a counter-proposal. How about you and your fleets come down to Earth for a nice visit? We can show you around, introduce you to our cultures, maybe have a barbecue. We make excellent burgers." "What?" Kexathera asked slowly. "Is a barbecue?" "It's a social gathering, where we cook food outdoors and eat together," the president explained. "Very relaxing, much better than all this threatening and posturing. We could even play some games. Do you folks know how to play baseball?" The alien bridge crew stared at their screens in complete bewilderment. They had come here to accept a surrender, and instead were being invited to a social gathering with food and games. "Admiral," the weapons officer reported, "the humans are not raising their shields or powering their weapons. They appear to be ignoring us." "Ignoring us?" Kexathera repeated. "Yes, Admiral. Their space stations are continuing normal operations. Civilian ships are still moving through the system. Some of them are even flying closer to get a better look at our vessels. On the main screen, they could see human ships approaching their formation. But these were not warships. They were small civilian craft, and the aliens could detect human life signs aboard them." "What are they doing?" Kexathera demanded. "It appears they are sightseeing," the sensors officer reported. "They are taking pictures of our ships and broadcasting them on their communication networks." "They're taking pictures," Kexathera said, flatly. "We arrive with the largest military force assembled in 3,000 years, and they want to take pictures." "Admiral," the communications officer said, "we're receiving multiple signals from human civilian vessels. They appear to be waving at us." "Waving?" "Yes, Admiral. They are making gestures with their hands that our computers identify as friendly greetings. Some of them are holding up signs." "What do the signs say?" The communications officer checked his display. "Welcome to Earth, take me to your leader, we come in peace, and I love aliens." Kexathera sat down heavily in her command chair. This was not going according to plan. Not at all. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "the humans have just sent us a gift." "A gift?" "Yes, Admiral. They have transmitted what they call a care package. It contains information about Earth's history, culture, and recipes." "Recipes?" "Instructions for preparing food, Admiral. They have included detailed directions for making something called pizza." Kexathera looked around her bridge at the confused faces of her crew. In all their planning, in all their preparation for this great military action, no one had considered the possibility that the humans would simply refuse to take them seriously. "Admiral," the communications officer said quietly, "President Carter is asking if we would like to extend our visit. She says they have plenty of guest rooms and that we're welcome to stay as long as we want." Outside the windows of the alien flagship, more human civilian ships approached, their crews still waving and taking pictures. Below them, Earth continued to spin peacefully in space, completely untroubled by the massive alien fleet that had come to conquer it. Kexathera realized she had no idea what to do next. Admiral Kexathera had waited long enough. 3 days had passed since her fleet arrived at Earth, and the humans were still treating the invasion like a festival. More civilian ships kept coming to look at the alien vessels. Some humans had even started selling t-shirts with pictures of the alien fleet printed on them. "This ends now," Kexathera announced to her bridge crew. "We came here to show these humans the power of the Galactic Council. If they will not listen to words, they will learn from actions." Her weapons officer, a mechanical constructor with glowing red sensors for eyes, turned toward her. "Admiral, are you certain? We have never fired our weapons at a populated world before." "We are not firing at the world," Kexathera replied. "We are firing at their military targets, their space stations, their orbital platforms, their defense systems. Once they see their protections destroyed, they will surrender immediately." She stood up from her command chair and spread her crystal wings wide. "All ships prepare for combat. Target the human military installations only. We will show them what real weapons can do." Across the alien fleet, 300 ships began charging their weapons. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids started, glowing with deadly energy. Quantum torpedoes that could punch holes through planets were loaded into launch tubes. Energy beams that could slice through the strongest metals began building power. On Earth, the humans noticed the change immediately. In the orbital defense station above the moon, Captain Jake Morrison watched his instrument panels as they detected the alien energy buildup. "Well, looks like our space friends finally decided to get serious," he said to his crew. Communications officer Lisa Grant sat at her station, calmly drinking coffee and monitoring the alien transmissions. "Should we raise shields?" asked Lieutenant Ben Parker, the station's tactical officer. "Nah," Jake replied, leaning back in his chair. "Let's see what they've got first. I'm curious about their technology." "Captain," Lisa said, looking up from her console, "I'm getting calls from news stations asking if they should move their camera crews to a safe distance." "Tell them they're fine where they are," Jake answered. "This should be educational, high, above Earth." Admiral Kexathera gave the order that would change everything. "All ships fire at will. Show these humans the price of defying the Galactic Council." The alien fleet opened fire with weapons that had taken thousands of years to perfect. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from their ships, striking the human space stations and orbital platforms. Plasma bolts that burned hotter than stars hit the human defenses. Quantum torpedoes that could destroy entire cities exploded against human shields. The aliens watched their displays, expecting to see massive explosions and the destruction of human military power. Instead, something impossible happened. The human defense stations absorbed every shot. "What?" Kexathera stared at her tactical display in shock. "That's impossible. Our weapons struck their targets directly." "Admiral," her sensors officer reported, voice filled with confusion. "The human stations are not only undamaged, they appear to be stronger than before." "Stronger?" "Yes, Admiral. Their shields are actually brighter now, and their power levels have increased by 300%. On the human defense station, Captain Morrison whistled appreciatively as he watched the energy readings on his screens. "Would you look at that? They just recharged our entire grid system. That's mighty. Neighborly of them." Lieutenant Parker stared at his instruments. "Captain, our defensive network is now operating at 4 times normal capacity. If they keep this up, we'll have enough stored energy to power the whole solar system for a year." "Should we send them a thank you note?" Lisa asked with a grin. Before Jake could answer, an automated message began broadcasting from Earth's defense network. The transmission went out on all frequencies, including the ones the aliens were using. "Attention visiting vessels," the recorded voice said politely. "Thank you for your generous energy donation to the Sol Defense Grid. Your contributions have been received and processed. Total energy absorbed, 847,000 terawatts. Battery status, charging. Would you like a receipt for your donation?" On the alien flagship, Admiral Kexathera's crew stared at their communication screens in disbelief. "They're thanking us," whispered the Sarok communications officer. "We attacked them, and they're thanking us." "Admiral," the weapons officer reported, "our plasma cannons have no effect. The quantum torpedoes are being absorbed like water into a sponge, and our energy beams are actually making their defenses stronger." Kexathera's crystal wings began to shake with anger and fear. "How is this possible? These are primitive humans. Their technology is supposed to be centuries behind ours." "Perhaps," suggested her science officer, a floating Valon. We have underestimated them. From Mars, Lieutenant Commander Amy Rogers contacted Earth Command. Her voice was cheerful and relaxed as she reported the situation. Command, this is Mars Defense Station. The aliens just gave us a complete power-up. All systems are green and we're running better than ever. Should we return the favor? Negative, Mars, came the reply from Earth. Let them finish their light show first. We're learning a lot about their capabilities. The alien attack continued for 2 hours. Every ship in the fleet fired every weapon they had at the human defenses. Energy weapons, projectile weapons, exotic matter disruptors, temporal destabilizers. Everything in their arsenal was used against the humans. Nothing worked. Not only did the human defenses absorb every attack, but automated systems began responding to each alien weapon with detailed analysis. Attention, Zephyrian Vessel Designation Alpha 7, announced a pleasant computer voice. Your plasma cannon is operating at only 67% efficiency. We recommend checking your power coupling. On Deck 12. Also, your quantum torpedo guidance system appears to be miscalibrated. Please see the attached technical manual for troubleshooting tips. They're giving us technical advice, reported the weapons officer aboard Admiral Kexathera's ship. While we're attacking them, they're trying to help us fix our weapons. Admiral, the science officer said quietly, I am detecting something else. The human defense stations were not originally this powerful. What do you mean? When we first arrived, their defensive capabilities were minimal, but each time we fired at them, their systems adapted and improved. They are not just absorbing our energy, they are learning from our attacks. The terrible truth began to dawn on Admiral Kexathera. You mean they're getting stronger every time we shoot at them? Yes, Admiral. And there's more. I'm detecting new energy signatures throughout their solar system. Structures that were not there before are now coming online. On the main display, the view of Earth's solar system began to change. What had looked like a few scattered space stations and mining operations was transforming before their eyes. Hidden platforms emerged from behind asteroids. Camouflaged installations on the moons of the outer planets suddenly became visible. Even some of the asteroids themselves turned out to be artificial constructions. By the ancient stars, whispered Kexathera, the entire solar system is a fortress. Admiral, her intelligence officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the human planet. It's not from their government this time. It appears to be from one of their scientists. Put it through. A new human voice filled the bridge, older and more serious than the previous ones they had heard. Greetings, Admiral Kexathera. This is Dr. Nathan Brooks, Director of Earth's Defense Research Institute. I hope you've enjoyed your demonstration of our systems. Your weapons are quite impressive, very advanced for their age. For their age? Kexathera asked. Oh yes, Dr. Brooks continued. Your plasma technology is remarkably similar to what we were using about 200 years ago. Very reliable, very stable. Not much punch by modern standards, but certainly effective against targets that aren't prepared for it. The bridge fell silent. 200 years ago? The aliens had been perfecting plasma weapons for millennia. Now you're probably wondering how our defenses work, the human scientist went on. It's really quite simple. We've spent the last few centuries assuming that someone would eventually show up to cause trouble. Humans are like that. We worry about things that might happen. We call it the Murphy's Law Defense Protocol, Dr. Brooks explained. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So we prepared for every possible type of attack we could imagine. Energy weapons, kinetic weapons, exotic matter, temporal distortions, dimensional phasing. We've got countermeasures for all of it. Admiral Kexathera sank into her command chair. They were ready for us. Oh, more than ready, Dr. Brooks said, cheerfully. You see, we didn't just build defenses, we built adaptive defenses. Every time you shoot at us, our systems analyze your weapons and develop better countermeasures. By now, our computers have completely figured out your technology. In fact, the scientist continued, we've just finished reverse engineering your plasma cannons. Would you like the blueprint improvements we came up with? We think we can increase your efficiency by about 40%. On the alien bridge, Crew members began looking at each other with growing panic. They had come here to easily defeat a primitive species. Instead, they had found humans who treated their most advanced weapons like educational toys. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, voice shaky. The human ships that suddenly surrounded the alien fleet looked nothing like what Admiral Kexathara expected. Where alien vessels were smooth and elegant, the human ships appeared rough and simple. But there were so many of them. Hundreds appeared from what had seemed like empty space, materializing around the alien fleet like ghosts becoming solid. "Admiral," her sensors officer reported, voice tight with fear. "I count over 800 human vessels. They seem to be everywhere." Kexathera stared at the tactical display. Red dots representing human ships surrounded her fleet from all directions. Above, below, and to every side, the aliens found themselves completely encircled. "How did they hide so many ships?" she demanded. "Our sensors should have detected them days ago." "Unknown, Admiral. It's as if they were not there and then suddenly they were." From the largest human ship, a casual voice came through the communication system. "Excuse me, alien fleet. This is Colonel Danny Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force. I hate to bother you folks, but you're kind of blocking our driveway here. Mind moving your ships to a more convenient location?" The tone was so polite and friendly that it took Kexathera a moment to understand what she was hearing. "Are they asking us to move?" she asked her crew. "It appears so, Admiral," replied her communications officer. "We just attacked their planet," Kexathera said slowly. "We fired every weapon we have at their defenses, and they're asking us to move because we're blocking their driveway?" "Admiral," the tactical officer interrupted, "the human ships are powering up their weapons, but these energy signatures, I've never seen anything like them." On the main screen, the human vessels began to glow with strange lights, but instead of the familiar energy weapons the aliens knew, these ships seemed to bend space around them. Reality itself appeared to twist and flow near the human vessels. "What kind of weapons are those?" Kexathera whispered. Her science officer, the floating Velan, drifted closer to her station. "Admiral, I don't think those are weapons in any sense we understand. They appear to be manipulating fundamental forces, gravity, time, space itself." Before Kexathera could respond, Colonel Mitchell's voice came through their speakers again. "Now I know what you're thinking. You came here expecting a nice traditional space battle. Energy weapons, explosions, dramatic speeches about honor and victory. The whole classic setup." He paused, and the aliens could hear what sounded like someone taking a sip of coffee. "But here's the thing about humans," Mitchell continued. "We don't really do traditional. We're more of a whatever works kind of species. So if you don't mind, we're going to skip the dramatic space battle and go straight to the part where you surrender." "Surrender?" Kexathera stood up from her command chair. "We have 300 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. You think we will surrender without a fight?" "Oh, you can fight if you want," Mitchell replied cheerfully. "It's just that fighting us is kind of like trying to punch a hurricane. You're welcome to try, but it's not going to end well for you." As if to demonstrate his point, space around the alien fleet began to change. Some of the alien ships started moving without their engines running. They drifted slowly toward each other, drawn by invisible forces. "What's happening?" Kexathera demanded. "Admiral," her pilot reported, panic in his voice. "Something is pulling our ships together. Our engines are at full reverse, but we're still moving." "It's a gravity well," the science officer explained. "The humans are using artificial gravity to move our ships like pieces on a game board." On the tactical display, Kexathera watched in horror as her carefully organized fleet was rearranged into a tight cluster. The human ships didn't fire a single shot, but somehow, they were completely controlling the movement of the alien vessels. "Attention, alien fleet," came another human voice, this one from a different ship. "This is Captain Kelly Stone in fighter craft Lucky 7. I just want you to know that I'm really sorry about this. It's nothing personal." Captain Stone's tiny fighter, no bigger than a shuttle, suddenly appeared in the middle of the alien formation. It moved between the massive alien warships like a leaf dancing in the wind, completely untouchable despite dozens of alien weapons firing at it. How is one small ship avoiding all our fire? Kexathara asked. Admiral, the weapons officer replied. Our targeting computers cannot lock onto it. Every time we try to predict where it will be, it's somewhere else. It's like it exists in multiple places at once. Captain Stone's fighter danced through the alien fleet, and wherever it went, alien ships simply stopped working. Not destroyed, not damaged, just stopped. What is she doing to our ships? Kexathara demanded. Unknown, Admiral. The ships are intact, but their systems are shutting down one by one. It's like she's telling them to go to sleep. Captain Stone's voice came through their communications again. Sorry about the power outages, folks. My little ship here is equipped with some nanobotic friends. They're just having a chat with your computer systems. Very polite nanobots, I promise. They're not breaking anything. Just explaining that maybe it's time for a nice nap. One by one, alien ships throughout the fleet began going dark. Their lights dimmed, their engines stopped, and their weapons powered down. The ships remained intact, and their crews were unharmed, but they could no longer fight. This is impossible, Kexathara said. One fighter cannot disable an entire fleet. Admiral, her communications officer reported. I'm receiving messages from our other ships. They report that tiny mechanical devices have entered their vessels and are talking to their computers. Talking? Yes, Admiral. The nanobots are apparently very polite. They introduce themselves, explain what they're doing, and even apologize for the inconvenience before shutting down each system. From another part of the human fleet, a new voice joined the conversation. Hey there, alien friends. This is Commander Rick Hayes on the UHS Reasonable Discussion. We're seeing some of your ships trying to escape to the outer system. That's totally understandable, but we're going to have to ask you to stick around for the surrender ceremony. Surrender ceremony? Kexathara asked. Oh yes, Commander Hayes replied. We humans love ceremonies. We've got balloons, refreshments, and even a little speech prepared. It'll be fun. On the tactical display, Kexathara watched as the alien ships that had tried to flee were gently but firmly guided back to the main group. The human ships didn't chase them or attack them. Instead, space itself seemed to bend, creating corridors that led the escaping vessels back to where the humans wanted them. Admiral, the science officer reported, I'm detecting temporal distortions around the fleeing ships. The humans are manipulating time itself to slow them down. They're using time as a weapon? Kexathara asked. Not as a weapon, Admiral. More like a leash. They're making time move slower for our ships so they can't escape. Colonel Mitchell's voice returned to the communication channel. Now I know what you're thinking. This all seems pretty unfair. You came here with your 3,000-year-old battle tactics, and we're using physics itself against you. He paused, again, and they could hear what sounded like several humans laughing in the background. But here's the thing, Mitchell continued. While you folks were having 3,000 years of peace, we were having 3,000 years of figuring out new and creative ways to end fights quickly. Turns out when you spend that much time preparing for war, you get pretty good at it. Admiral, the tactical officer reported, all of our weapons are now offline, all of our engines are disabled, and our communications are being redirected. Redirected? Yes, Admiral. When we try to call for help, our messages are being sent to human customer service departments instead of our own fleet command. Customer service? Human civilians who are trained to handle complaints and problems, Admiral. They keep asking if we would like to speak to a manager and if we have tried turning our ships off and on again. From the human fleet, Colonel Mitchell's voice came through one final time. Okay, alien friends. Here's how this is going to work. We're going to bring all your ships to a nice parking orbit around our moon. We've got boarding parties ready to come aboard with hot meals and comfortable accommodations. Boarding parties? Kexathara asked weakly. Oh yes. Humans with sandwiches, coffee, clean blankets, and entertainment systems. We find that people are much more reasonable when they're well-fed and comfortable. We're also bringing some folks who speak your languages so we can have a proper conversation about all this. They're treating us like lost tourists, Kexathara realized. Admiral, her communications officer said quietly, I'm receiving a personal message for you from the human fleet. Put it through. A woman's voice, warm and friendly, filled the bridge. Admiral Kexathara, This is Dr. Sarah Martinez, Earth's Chief Diplomatic Officer. I just wanted to let you know that we've prepared quarters for you and your crew on Luna Station. We have Zephyrian-compatible atmosphere and even managed to replicate some of your traditional foods. Would you prefer the executive suite or something more modest? Kexathara looked around her bridge at her confused and defeated crew. Outside the windows, human ships surrounded them like protective shepherds guiding lost sheep. In the distance, Earth continued to spin peacefully, completely untroubled by the fact that it had just defeated the largest military force AS. 6 months later, Admiral Kexathara sat in what used to be her command ship, now floating peacefully in orbit around Earth's moon. The ship looked exactly the same as before, but everything had changed. Human technicians had improved the life, support systems, upgraded the food processors, and even installed something called entertainment networks that showed human movies and television programs. Kexathara had learned to drink coffee, though she still didn't understand why humans found it so important. She had also learned to play poker, a human card game that seemed to involve lying to your friends in creative ways. Most confusing of all, she had developed what humans called a sense of humor, though she wasn't entirely sure what that meant. Admiral, her communications officer said, approaching her station, "We're receiving the daily briefing from Earth Command. President Carter wants to know if you're ready for today's meeting." Kexathara nodded. The Galactic Council was meeting again, but this time it was very different. Instead of 12 species planning military action, it was now 12 species trying to understand how to live in a galaxy where humans existed. "Tell President Carter I'll be there shortly," Kexathara replied. "And ask her if there will be sandwiches at this meeting. I've become quite fond of the ones with turkey and cheese." The communications officer, who had also learned to appreciate human food, smiled. "I believe today's menu includes something called pizza, Admiral." "Excellent," Kexathara said, standing up from her chair. "I'm still trying to understand how humans can put fruit on bread with cheese and call it food, but it's surprisingly good." She made her way to the transport bay, where a human shuttle waited to take her to the space station where the council meetings were now held. The station itself was a marvel of human engineering, built in just 3 months after the surrender. It had sections designed for every species in the council, with proper atmosphere, gravity, and even entertainment areas. As the shuttle flew toward the station, Kexathara looked out the window at the busy space around Earth. Human ships moved back and forth constantly, carrying supplies, people, and visitors from dozens of different worlds. The war that was supposed to destroy humanity had instead brought more aliens to the human system than had ever been in one place before. "Admiral," the human pilot said, turning around in his seat, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but what do you think of Earth now? Is it what you expected?" Kexathara considered the question. "No, Lieutenant Davis, it is not what I expected at all. We came here thinking humans were primitive and dangerous. Instead, we found that you are primitive and dangerous in ways we never imagined." Lieutenant Davis laughed. "I'll take that as a compliment, Admiral." "It is meant as one," Kexathara assured him. "Your species has a talent for making the impossible seem normal." The shuttle docked at the space station and Kexathara made her way to the council chamber. The room was much more comfortable than the old meeting place on her ship. Human designers had created seating for every type of alien body, with proper lighting and temperature controls for each species. President Carter was already there, talking with representatives from several other species. She looked up as Kexathara entered and smiled warmly. "Admiral, good to see you," Carter said. "How are you settling in? I heard your crew has started a bowling league with some of our station personnel." "Yes," Kexathara replied, still amazed by human enthusiasm for strange activities. "Lieutenant Zixandra has become quite skilled at knocking down the white pins with the heavy ball. She says it helps her relax." "Bowling does that," Carter agreed. "Are you ready for today's discussion? We're going to talk about the exploration proposal." Kexathara took her seat as other council members filed into the room. The Sauroch delegation looked healthier than they had in months, thanks to human doctors who had helped them with some medical problems they didn't even know they had. The Valens had become fascinated with human music and were constantly listening to something called jazz. Even the constructors had been upgraded with human technology that made them more efficient and surprisingly more creative. "All right, everyone," President Carter said, calling the meeting to order. "Today we're here to discuss Commander Scott Davis's proposal for joint exploration of the Andromeda Galaxy. Scott, would you like to explain your idea?" Commander Davis, a tall human with gray hair and kind eyes, stood up from his seat. He had been appointed as Earth's ambassador to the alien species, and in just 6 months he had become one of the most popular humans in the galaxy. "Thank you, President Carter," he began. "As you all know, our recent misunderstanding has taught us a lot about each other. We've learned that humans approach problems differently than other species, and we've learned that other species have knowledge and experience that we lack." He activated a holographic display that showed a map of nearby galaxies. "What I'm proposing is a joint exploration mission to Andromeda," Davis continued. "Not for conquest or colonization, but for discovery. We want to see what's out there, meet new species, and maybe find some answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask yet." A Sarok council member raised her clawed hand. "Commander Davis, what makes you think there are hostile civilizations in Andromeda? Our galaxy has been peaceful for 3,000 years. Davis smiled. "Well, ma'am, that's exactly why we need to go look. See, humans have this theory that if something can go wrong, it probably will. We call it Murphy's Law. And if there are hostile aliens in Andromeda, we'd rather meet them on our terms than wait for them to show up here uninvited." "Like we did," Kexathera said dryly. "Exactly," Davis agreed. "No offense intended, Admiral, but your visit taught us that we need to be ready for anything, and the best way to be ready is to know what's out there." A Valen representative swirled in patterns that indicated curiosity. "What would humans do if we encountered truly dangerous civilizations?" "Same thing we always do," Davis replied. "Try to talk to them first, offer them coffee and sandwiches, and if they insist on being unfriendly, we'll politely explain why that's not a good idea." "You mean you'll defeat them like you defeated us," said a constructor. "Only if necessary," Davis assured them. "But here's the thing. We'd rather have all of you with us when we meet these hypothetical dangerous aliens. Your experience with diplomacy, your knowledge of different cultures, your 3,000 years of peaceful cooperation. That's exactly what we need." President Carter leaned forward in her chair. "What Scott is saying is that humans are good at solving problems, but we're not always good at preventing them. You folks are experts at prevention. Together we might actually be able to explore the galaxy without starting any wars." "Might," emphasized Davis. "No guarantees. But we figure it's worth a try." The council members looked at each other, communicating in their various ways. After several minutes of discussion, Kexathera spoke for the group. "Commander Davis, 6 months ago, we came to your system planning to teach you a lesson about following galactic law. Instead, you taught us a lesson about preparation, creativity, and the value of expecting the unexpected." She paused, her crystal wings catching the light from the room's displays. "We have spent 3,000 years perfecting peace," she continued. "You have spent the same time perfecting readiness. Perhaps it is time we combined these skills." "So you're interested?" Carter asked. "We are," Kexathera confirmed, "but we have one condition." "What's that?" Davis asked. "We want to bring our own coffee makers," Kexathera said. "Human coffee is excellent, but Zephyrian coffee is more interesting." The room erupted in laughter, a sound that would have been impossible in the old council chambers. 3 months later, the largest exploration fleet in galactic history departed from Earth's solar system, heading toward Andromeda. The fleet included ships from all 12 species, human technology integrated with alien knowledge, and a crew that understood both the value of peace and the necessity of being prepared for anything. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the lead ship UHS New Horizon, sat in his ready room reviewing their mission orders. His first officer, Kexathera, entered with 2 cups of coffee, 1 human, 1 Zephyrian. "Captain," she said, handing him the human coffee. "Long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy signatures near the galactic edge. It could be natural phenomena or it could be somebody who needs to learn about Murphy's Law." Morrison finished with a grin. "Either way, sounds like our kind of problem." as their ship jumped into hyperspace, heading toward whatever waited. In the darkness between galaxies, Morrison reflected on how much had changed. The aliens had come to Earth to shatter humanity's peace, but instead they had discovered something better than peace: friendship with a species that was always ready for whatever came next. Behind them, Earth continued to spin in its orbit, still, blue and beautiful but no longer alone. And somewhere in the vast darkness of Andromeda, new adventures waited for a crew that had learned the most important lesson of all. The universe was a lot more fun when you weren't afraid of it.